So on BookTube, there's this thing called like the monthly wrap-ups. At the end of the month, you talk about like the books you read and how you thought they were, which like I want to do. But I also want to incorporate like music into my wrap-ups. We're gonna try this. I haven't really planned this video, so we'll see how it goes. I read 14 books in July, which is a lot. All of my books were pretty relatively good that I read, with a few that weren't, but we'll get into it. So the first book I read was Little Fires Everywhere. Since this was the first book I read in July, so I don't like necessarily remember all of it, but I do remember liking it. I think towards like the middle it got really slow for me, and yeah, I just found in the book the background story to be kind of like boring at parts, and I just wanted to get into the drama. I rated it 4 stars, so I pretty much enjoyed it. The next book I read was The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. This is not a light book. This book is about young black girls, I think growing up in the 50s. I think it was the 50s or 40s. It's about these little black girls and they are constantly being reaffirmed like whiteness is the beauty. Yeah, it was really heart-wrenching, but I definitely think it's a necessary read. Toni Morrison is one of the most celebrated writers of all time, so yeah, I definitely want to check out more of her work. I really want to read Beloved. I think that's the next one I'll read. Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine. This book is about this woman who has a hard time fitting into society, and slowly through the book you kind of realize like what happened to her and her past and her trauma. I really didn't like the main character when I was like first dropped into the story because she's super rude to people, but then as you get more into it you realize why she's like that, and it makes you like, oh, like kind of like sympathetic or empathetic in a way. By the end of the book, I was like tearing up for Miss Eleanor. I think I just read it at a time where it just like really hit me. The story was just like, oof, I needed this. It was so sweet. It was a very sweet book. The next book I read, I also don't have a physical copy. I read a lot of books from the library, so that's why. It's The Guest List by Lucy Foley. It's set on an island and it's these like rich celebrities, just like rich people, all going to a wedding, and then at the wedding something happens. Perhaps murder, I don't know. And then it's about like who did it. I found it to be okay. Like I was kind of expecting a little bit more of like shock value or even just liking the characters more, which I just didn't really vibe with the characters. I hate books where the issue is just communication. And I know that's a lot of books, but I'm like, if these characters just talk to each other without like putting on a facade, they could get through their issues, but they don't. And that's like super frustrating to me. But The Guest List, I rated it 3 stars. I found it to be okay, but not the best mystery I've read. So yeah. Oh my god, this next book. Oh y'all are not ready for this one. This book is On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous. This is literally the most gorgeous book I've ever read. I'm such an Ocean Vuong stan now. I stan this man so much. It's about this young man, Little Dog, our main character. He writes a letter to his mother about his experience with her and just in life in general, but the thing is that she's illiterate, so she'll never actually read it, so it's just kind of like a way of therapy. I kept getting so swept up in this and thinking it was like a real nonfiction like autobiography because it was so realistic. The memories were just like so potent and I felt like I was there. And of course it talks about other things like homosexuality and just coming of age in general, and it was just like so good and like it made me cry. Oh, this is the book I gush about the most out of this month. It was just so freaking good. It's definitely a favorite. 5 stars. Let me find a quote that I can like tell you guys. We were exchanging truths. I realized, which is to say we were cutting one another. Your hands are hideous and I hate everything that made them that way. I hate how they are the wreck and the reckoning of a dream. I mean, okay, just read this book. Like just read it. The next book I read is a collection of poetry, and it's Dreamwork by Mary Oliver. I read this because it's one of Uncarly's like favorite poetry collections, and it was so good. It uses a lot of influence of nature and the outdoors. It was definitely like the perfect thing to read in summertime. I don't know why this just feels like a collection of like summery poetry. I think my favorite might be Wild Geese. That's a lot of people's favorite. But I just found it to be so beautiful. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Yeah, plus Mary Oliver is an iconic lesbian, so let's get into it. The next book is also a new favorite, and it is Mexican Gothic. I was reading this when I filmed my book haul, and I quickly finished it like literally a day after I posted that video because it was just so addictive. The setting was beautiful. It was in like the Mexican countryside, and I loved the main character. I loved reading about a Hispanic lead, which like I don't read a lot about. This is a horror novel. I wasn't scared though, but I was just more like, ew. When something happened, I was like, that was gross. Let's move on. Yeah, but I still really enjoyed it. The writing was super addictive and really like immersed me in the story. Very much escapism. I was so hooked on this book and I really enjoyed it. The next book I read was Malibu Rising. I don't have my physical copy because my mom lent it to a friend of hers, but I rated this book 2 stars. I kind of knew I wasn't gonna like this book. Taylor Jenkins Reid is a great author. I found her writing to be super accessible, but this story just felt very much like a story for my mom or like older women in a lot of ways. Yeah, sorry Taylor Jenkins Reid, but it wasn't for me. Another letdown book that I read was The Idiot. This was so not enjoyable. It was so slow paced. There was no plot. That's the thing. There was no plot. There was nothing moving forward. It was kind of a romance, which don't even get me started on the romantic interest. He was literally the worst. I was just like, girl, you are going to Harvard and you're pining after this dude who's doing the bare minimum. He was literally like, I don't want to meet you in person. I'd rather just keep corresponding through email. And then when they met up, he was so boring and literally only talked about himself, and she even like realized he was not that fun and interesting, but she was still like, okay, I guess I'll follow him to a foreign country. I was probably like halfway in and I was like, I can't read the rest of this, so I skimmed it. I got the gist and I hated it. Luckily, after I read that, I had a really good book that I rated 5 stars. Oh, yeah, this was a 5-star read, The Maidens. It was so good. It was so enjoyable. So this is a mystery thriller. It's set on a college campus. The professor is like this attractive, charismatic man, and everyone's into him, except our main character, who's like, I see right through you. You're a fraud. So she thinks he killed the girl that died. So yeah, you just need to read it to find out what happened, but it was so good. I found it to be super enjoyable. I love the atmosphere. I'm a sucker for dark academia though, so that's kind of like my thing. Next book I read was Never Let Me Go by Kazu Ishiguro. Wow, this book was really good, and I see why this is a lot of people's favorites. I wish I had known a little bit more before I went into this because I felt like I went in way too empty-handed. First of all, I had no clue this was science fiction. I thought this was literary fiction, and in a way it is, but I really did not know there were like sci-fi elements to this book. Yeah, and then you kind of pick up what's happening out throughout the story because they don't tell you the premise of it, which was kind of hard for me because I was like, wait, what am I getting myself into? But just keep reading it. It's honestly really beautiful. It was super heartbreaking. There's a movie. I watched the movie and I found the movie to be okay, but it missed out on a lot of elements that made the book so great. So yeah, I really liked this. I rated it 4 stars. So yeah. Next book is another poetry collection. It is Wendy Cope's Serious Concerns, another UnCarly suggestion. This poetry collection is so funny, so witty, but so like sad and depressing also. I like how much Wendy was like making fun of men, and not in like a rude way, but like a playful way. Does that make sense? Like, that's how I make fun of men. I loved this. I rated it 5 stars. It was so good. And it's so tiny and cute, and yeah. The House in the Cerulean Sea. I did like this. I gave it 3 stars. I liked it because I liked the like setting. The main little orphan boy, Lucy, is so cute and he's so fun. This movie felt like a Universal Disney movie in a lot of ways, which for me was cute in some aspects, but also kind of cringe for me because I'm not a big like animated movie fan. This kind of gave me those vibes at some points, so I was kind of like cringed out. And also there was like a boy with a tail, and but it was super sweet. It was a super sweet book. I heard about the problematic things with the author and the inspiration for this book. If you want to know more about that, just do your own research, but I didn't find him to be romanticizing the orphanage. I didn't get that vibe at all, but I guess if I had known before I read the book, then maybe I would have. Yeah, it's gay, so enjoy. One more book, I forgot. I read The Silent Patient. Same author, Alex Michaelides. I didn't like The Silent Patient as much as I liked The Maidens. The Silent Patient is more triggery because it's set in like a psychiatric ward and there's a lot of stuff that goes on there. So I didn't find it as enjoyable, and I also predicted it like halfway through. Every time I figure out the ending of like a thriller, I'm like, yeah, I'm smarter than everyone. But I still really liked it. I gave it 4 stars because it was still really good. The writing was awesome, so yeah. Ooh, sorry, that was so much. I read so many books, so that was a lot to get through. But now we can discuss the music faves that I had in July. This is almost like a favorites video, but not. I gotta shout out Stoned at the Nail Salon. This song is so good. A lot of people say it reminds them of like a Lana Del Rey song, which yes, because Jack Antonoff produced it. I've been really on an Elliott Smith kick this last month. I have loved Elliott Smith since I was a teenager. He's like my background music for when I read. I don't know why, I just find his like voice and his guitar to be like super soothing while I read. Specifically the New Moon compilation that's on Spotify, I play that a lot. All of these songs are in my Spotify playlist, which maybe I'll link down below, my Summer 21 playlist. Oh my gosh, one of my favorite bands released a song yesterday. I found them in like 2018 and I just love their music. It's so relaxed. It's very summertime to me. I don't know why this band reminds me of like summertime. Anyways, you should go listen to it. I love their music. It's so good. I've been listening to a lot of Twice and I am in my once-ification era, so I'm like fully becoming a stan. Like I already loved Twice, but I'm like becoming a stan. Taste of Love. This album is so freaking good. I know that this came out in June, but I need to shout it out now. I'm in love with Dahyun. She is my woman. Okay, anyways, yeah, my favorite song is SOS on the album. I love Twice. I love Twice. That's all I'm gonna talk about in this video. It's been long enough. We need to wrap it up. I'm a little bit tired and I also have things to do, so I will see you guys in my next video.